You cannot keep using an old address for a new season. At some point, you have to say, I do not live there anymore. I do not live in shame anymore. I do not live in fear anymore. I do not live in rejection anymore. I do not live in comparison anymore. I do not live in survival mode anymore. I do not live in who I used to be anymore. My IP has changed. My identity position has changed. And you cannot change what you will not first locate.
Every story's got a spark, and every spark's got a name. This is the journey of finding mine. Who am I when the lights go low? Who am I when the world says no? Searching through my past, trying to free my soul, one truth at a time, letting every story unfold.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Who Am I podcast, where we pause, reflect, and refocus. But before we get into today's episode, I want to do a pre-check, not a Wi-Fi check, not a phone check, a signal check, not a how many bars do I have kind of check. I want to do an identity check because there is a question millions of people type into Google every day. And that question is, what is my IP address? See, they are trying to find out where their device is connected from. They are trying to locate the signal. They are trying to identify where the connection is coming from. But today, we are going to flip that question because I'm not asking you about your internet protocol. I am asking you about your IP, your identity position. Where are you connecting from today? Are you connecting from peace, or are you connecting from pressure? Are you connecting from faith, or are you connecting from fear? Are you connecting from healing, or are you connecting from that place of hurt? Are you connecting from purpose, or are you connecting from pain? Are you connecting from confidence, or are you connecting from comparison? Are you connecting from who God says you are, or are you connecting from what life made you feel? Because sometimes we try to move forward without ever locating where we are. We want change, but we do not know our current position. We want healing, but we have not identified the wound. We want peace, but we have not admitted where the chaos is coming from. And we want purpose, but we are still positioned in survival. So before we go any further, ask yourself, what is my IP address? Not where is my phone connected, my heart connected, my mind connected, my identity connected, but where am I standing emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and personally? Because your position matters. It really does. Where you are standing determines what you see. Where you are standing determines what you accept. It determines how you respond. It determines what you believe is possible. And some of us are not stuck because we lack potential. We are stuck because our identity is still positioned in a place we were supposed to outgrow. So today we are checking on our IP address. We are checking our IP. We are finding our identity position. That is what this episode is all about. And it's about this because this. Millions of people search, what is my IP address? Because they want to know where their device is connected from. But today, I want to flip that question. What is your IP address? Not your internet protocol, but your identity position. Where are you connecting from? Fear, faith, rejection, purpose, survival, healing? Because before you can move forward, you have to locate where you are. And that's what we are talking about today. Not your internet location, but your inner location. Because some of us are trying to step into a new season while still connected to an old identity address. So today we are checking our IP. We are finding our identity position. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it real quick. And here's the truth. Here's the truth. Your device has an IP address that tells where the connection is coming from. But your life has an IP too. And your IP tells where your decisions are coming from. Your IP tells where your reactions are coming from, where your fears are coming from, where your habits are coming from, where your confidence or lack of confidence is coming from, because every person is connected to something. Some people are connected to an old wound. Some people are connected to rejection, connected to abandonment, connected to fear, connected to shame, connected to people's opinions, connected to childhood pains, connected to past mistakes, connected to survival mode. And then some people are learning to connect to peace. Some people are learning to connect to purpose, to connect to faith, and they are learning to connect to healing. Some people are even learning to connect to who they are becoming, not just what they have been through. So the question today is not just what is my IP address? The question is, what is my identity position? Where am I really living from? Because you can be physically in one place, but emotionally still living somewhere else. You can be in a new season of life, but still connected to an old wound. You can be in a new relationship, but still responding from an old heartbreak. You can have a new opportunity, but still thinking from old failure. You can be blessed now, but still behaving like you are about to lose everything. And you can be free now, but still acting like you are still bound. And that is why you have to check your IP. Because some of us are trying to enter a new season with an old identity address. And today we are going to talk about how to locate yourself, how to identify where you are connecting from, and how to reset your IP so you can stop living from pain and start living from purpose. So let's slow this down just for a moment. Let's pause, reflect, and let's refocus. See, this is not about judging yourself. This is not about beating yourself up. This is not about saying I should be further than this. This is about locating yourself, because you cannot heal what you will not identify. You cannot change what you will not confront. You cannot move from a place you refuse to admit you are standing in. So today's question is simple. What is my IP address? What is my identity position? So the first thing we need to understand is this. Your IP reveals where you are connecting from online, and IP address helps identify the location of a device on a network. But in life, your identity position helps reveal the location of your soul. It also reveals the place you keep responding from. And that matters because many times the issue is not just what happened. The issue is where you are still positioned because of what happened. Let me say that again. The issue is not just what happened. The issue is where you are still positioned because of what happened. Because pain can become a place, fear can become a place, rejection can become a place, disappointment can become a place, grief can become a place, failure can become a place. And if you are not careful, you can visit a painful place and accidentally build a house there. You can experience rejection and begin living from rejection. You can experience betrayal and begin living from suspicion. You can experience failure and begin living from fear. You can experience loss and begin living from survival mode. You can experience criticism and begin living from insecurity. And now your reactions are not coming from who you are, they are coming from where you are positioned. That is why someone can say something small and it hurts bigger than it should, because it did not just touch the moment, it touched the address. It touched the place inside of you where that old wound still lives. That is why someone can give you feedback and you hear rejection. That is why someone can take too long to text back and you feel abandoned. That is why someone can succeed and instead of celebrating them, you start comparing yourself. And that is why a new opportunity can open, and instead of being excited, you start expecting failure. And you start expecting failure because your IP is speaking. See, your identity position is showing, and the question becomes, where am I connected from? Am I connected from what happened to me, or am I connected from what God is doing in me? Am I connected from the old womb, or am I connected from the new work? Am I connected from fear, or am I connected from faith? Because where you're connected from determines how you interpret what is in front of you. If your identity is positioned in fear, every opportunity looks like a threat. If your identity is positioned in rejection, every delay feels like abandonment. If your identity is positioned in insecurity, every compliment feels suspicious. If your identity is positioned in shame, every mistake feels like proof that you are not enough. But if your identity is positioned in purpose, you start seeing challenges as training. If your identity is positioned in faith, you start seeing delay as development. If your identity is positioned, if it's positioned in healing, you stop responding from the wound and start responding from wisdom. And if your identity is positioned in God, you stop letting people's opinions become your address. That is why you have to check your IP, because your position is either helping you grow or it's keeping you stuck. See, sometimes your IP is outdated. And this is where we have to be honest, because some of us are living from an outdated IP. We are using an old identity address in a new season. You have grown, but your mind still checks in at the old location. You survived it, but your emotions still live there. You got out, but your identity still answers to that old address. And sometimes we do not even realize it. We say things like this: I'm just like this. I've always been this way. I don't trust nobody. I already know how this ends. I'm not good enough for that. People like me don't get opportunities like that. I always mess things up. Nobody ever stays. But listen to me closely and hear me. Really hear me. Open up your ears and your heart and hear me. Some of those statements are not your identity. They are old addresses. They are places pain gave you. They are labels life tried to assign to you. They are conclusions. They are conclusions you made in a season when you were hurt, tired, confused, or disappointed. But just because you believed it then does not mean you have to live from it now. Some of us are still positioned in what somebody called us. Some of us are still positioned in who left. Some of us are still positioned in what we lost, positioned in what did not work. Some of us are still positioned in the mistake we made. Some of us are still positioned in the season where we felt invisible. But I came to remind you that old address is not your permanent address. You are allowed to move. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to heal. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to become someone who no longer answers to the names pain once called you. That is why the Bible says in 2 Corinthians 5:17, if any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away. Behold, all things become new. That means old things do not get to keep the final word. Old labels do not get to keep the final word. Old mistakes do not get to keep the final word. Old pains do not get to keep the final word. Old seasons do not get to keep the final word. You may have lived there, but you do not have to stay there. Your past may know where you have been, but it does not get to decide where you are positioned. So ask yourself, am I operating from an outdated IP? Am I still thinking from who I used to be? Am I still expecting disappointment because disappointment was familiar? Am I still responding from what hurt me? Am I still carrying the old version of myself into places that requires the new me? Because sometimes the problem is not that the door is closed. Sometimes the door is open, but your identity is still standing in the old hallway. And God is constantly calling you, come forward. Come forward in your mind, come forward in your faith, in your self-worth, in your confidence, in your healing, in your identity. You cannot keep using an old address for a new season. At some point, you have to say, I do not live there anymore. I do not live in shame anymore. I do not live in fear anymore. I do not live in rejection anymore. I do not live in comparison anymore. I do not live in survival mode anymore. I do not live in who I used to be anymore. My IP has changed. My identity position has changed. And you cannot change what you will not first locate. So let's talk about locations, because before you can move forward, you have to locate yourself. That is why the question matters. What is my IP address? What is my identity position? Where am I right now in this very moment? Not where do I wish I was, not where do I pretend I am, not where do people think I am. Where am I really? Am I tired? Am I angry? Am I grieving? Am I afraid? Am I bitter? Am I healing? Am I growing? Am I hiding? Am I becoming? Because honesty is a locator. It really is. Honesty tells you where you are. And one of the most dangerous things you can do is lie to yourself about your location. Because if you do not know where you are, you will not know what direction to take. Imagine putting an address into a GPS, but the starting location is wrong. The directions will be off. The route will be confused. The destination may be right, but the starting point is incorrect. That is what happens in life when we are not honest. That's what happens when we are not honest. We say we want peace, but we will not admit we are angry. We say we want healing, but we will not admit we are wounded. We say we want love, but we will not admit we are guarded. We say we want purpose, but we will not admit we are afraid. We say we want change, but we will not admit we are comfortable in the familiarity. And because we refuse to locate ourselves, we keep walking in circles. So today, do not ask yourself only, where do I want to go? Ask yourself, where am I starting from? Because your starting place matters. If you are starting from grief, be gentle with yourself. If you are starting from fear, build your courage one step at a time. If you are starting from burnout, rest is not laziness, rest is wisdom. If you are starting from insecurity, stop feeding yourself comparison. If you are starting from shame, you need grace before you need another goal. If you are starting from survival, you may need to learn that peace is not danger. It is not dangerous. You cannot change what you will not first locate. You cannot heal what you keep mislabeling. You cannot fix a leak by pretending there is no water on the floor. You cannot correct the root if you will not admit you are off course. And listen, being off course does not mean you are a failure. It simply means you need a reset. That is all. A reset, not shame, not condemnation, not punishment, but a reset. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, Lord, this is where I am, not where I want people to think I am, not where I thought I would be by now, not where I wish I was. This is where I am. And the beautiful thing about God is this: He can meet you where you are without leaving you where you are. But you have to be honest about the address. So let's talk about this, and let's take this just a little deeper. What has access to your IP? What has access to your IP? So with technology, access matters. Not everything should be allowed to connect to your network. Not every device should have permission. Not every source is safe. And the same thing is true with your identity. You have to ask yourself, what has access to my IP? What has access to my identity position? Who have I allowed to define me? Who have I allowed to speak over me? What environment keeps shaping how I see myself? What voices have I given too much authority to? What memories keep logging in without permission? What fears keep taking control of my decisions? Because everybody should not have access to your identity. Every opinion should not have access. Every criticism should not have access. Every failed relationship should not have access. Every social media comparison should not have access. Every old mistake should not have access. Some of us are emotionally exhausted because too many things have access to our IP. We have given people the passwords to our peace. We have given comparison the password to our confidence. We have given fear the passwords to our future. We have given rejection the password to our self-worth. We have given rejection the password to our self-worth. We have given old pains the passwords to our present. And then we wonder why we feel drained, why we feel unstable, why we cannot focus, why we keep doubting ourselves. But maybe it is time to change the access code. Maybe it is time to stop letting people who did not create you define you. Maybe it's time to stop letting old wounds log into new seasons. Maybe it's time to stop letting everybody's opinion become your instructions. Maybe it is time to stop allowing temporary people to give permanent labels, because your identity is too valuable to leave unsecured. You need boundaries. You need firewalls around your IP. You need boundaries around your peace, around your purpose, around your healing. And boundaries do not mean you hate people. Boundaries means simply this: you understand values. You do not leave valuable things unprotected. You lock your car, right? You lock your house. You protect your bank account. You protect your phone. But some of us leave our identity wide open for anybody to walk in and tell us who we are. But no more. No more. This is the season where you protect your IP. This is the season where you protect your identity position. You check the access. You ask, is this voice helping me become who God called me to be? Or is it pulling me back into who pain told me I was? Because not every voice deserves volume in your life. Some voices need to be muted. Some influences need to be unfollowed. Some conversations need to be limited. Some memories need to be held, not obeyed. Some fears need to be confronted, not consulted. And some labels need to be returned back to the sender because they do not belong to you. Now, here's the good news. Can I give you some good news? Your IP can be reset. I don't know about you, but that is great news. See, your identity position can change. You are not stuck where pain placed you. You are not stuck where pain placed you. You are not stuck where rejection dropped you. You are not stuck where failure embarrassed you. You are not stuck where grief shook you. You are not stuck where people misunderstood you. You are not stuck where you lost yourself. You can reset. But resetting your IP starts with awareness. You have to recognize, I've been living from fear. I have been living from hurt. I have been living from survival mode. I have been living from people's approval. I have been living from an old version of myself. Then you have to make a decision. And I do not want to live from here anymore. You have to make a decision that I do not want to live from here anymore. That decision matters, my friend. It matters because healing often begins when you stop defending the place that is destroying you. See, some of us have gotten so used to dysfunction that we protect it. We protect the fear, the insecurity, the attitude, the isolation, the overthinking, the excuses. We say, this is just how I am. But maybe it is not who you are. Maybe it is where you have been living. And you can move. You can reset your IP by renewing your mind. You can reset your IP by telling yourself the truth. You can renew your IP by setting boundaries, by choosing healing over hiding, by getting help when you need it, by praying honestly, by surrounding yourself with voices that calls you higher. You can reset your IP by refusing to let your past keep speaking louder than your purpose. And for the person of faith, you can reset your IP by remembering where your identity is rooted. Not in people, not in performance, not in mistakes, not in titles, not in applauses, not in failure, not in rejection. Your identity is rooted in God. That simply means when life tries to rename you, you return to the source. When fears try to locate you, you return to the source. When shame tries to define you, you return to the source. When people misunderstand you, you return to the source, because the creator has the right to define the creation. And if God says you are loved, you are loved. If God says you are chosen, you are chosen. And if God says you are forgiven, you are forgiven. And if God says you are fearfully and wonderfully made, then you are not an accident. You are not an accident. If God says you are more than a conqueror, then defeat is not your address. So reset your IP, change your identity position, move from fear to faith, from shame to grace, from rejection to restoration, from survival to purpose, move from pressure to peace, move from confusion to clarity, move from old labels to God-given identity. You do not have to live there anymore. So allow me to make this practical. Allow me to make this practical. How do you know when you are living from the wrong identity position? How do you know when you are living from the wrong identity position. So the way you know is this. One sign is that you keep responding to the present like it is the past. Somebody new comes into your life, but you treat them like the person who hurt you. Somebody new comes into your life, but you treat them like the person who hurt you. A new opportunity's open, but you approach it like the last failure. A good moment happens, but you cannot enjoy it because you are waiting for something bad to happen. That may be a sign that your IP is still connected to old pain. Another sign is constant comparison. See, when your identity position is weak, everybody else's success feels like your failure. You see somebody else winning, and instead of being inspired, you feel behind. But their success is not your senses, their blessing is not your burden, their timeline is not your identity. Another sign is people pleasing. Another sign is people pleasing. See, when you're positioned in insecurity, you will keep sacrificing your peace for approval. Ouch. You will say yes when you need to say no. You will carry what is not yours. You will become who they need while forgetting who you are. The other sign is self-sabotage. You finally get something good, but fear convinces you it will not last. So you know what you do? You pull back, you overthink, you create problems. You look for proof that is going to fail. Not because you want to lose it, but because losing is familiar. And familiarity can feel safer than healthy. Another sign is spiritual and emotional exhaustion. See, when your identity is positioned in the wrong place, you are always trying to prove, perform, explain, defend, and survive. But when you are positioned in purpose, you do not have to prove your worth every day. You can grow without pretending. You can heal without shame. You can rest without guilt. You can become without apologies. So check the signs, not to judge yourself, but to locate yourself. Because once you see where you are, once you see where you truly are, you can choose where you are going. Now, I want you to take this personally. Take this moment personally. Ask yourself, what is my IP address? What is my identity position? Am I positioned in pain? Am I positioned in fear? Am I positioned in rejection? Am I positioned in pressure? Am I positioned in survival mode? Or am I positioned in faith? Am I positioned in healing? Am I positioned in purpose? Am I positioned in peace? Am I positioned in who God says I am? And be honest. Be honest, because honesty is not your enemy. Honesty is the beginning of your freedom. So maybe today you realize I have been making decisions from fear. Maybe today you realize I have been reacting from hurt. Maybe today you realize I have been hiding behind strength. I have been comparing myself too much. I have been living from an old label. I have been letting people define me. I have been carrying an outdated address. That is not the end. That is the beginning. That is the beginning, because now that you know where you are, you can decide no longer will I stay there. So as we get ready to close, I want to leave you with this. Can I leave you with this? Your IP matters. Your identity, position matters. And it matters because where your position affects how you see yourself. And how you see yourself affects how you live. So if you see yourself through rejection, you will keep expecting people to leave. If you see yourself through shame, you will keep believing you are not enough. If you see yourself through fear, you will keep running from opportunities that were meant to grow you. If you see yourself through comparison, you will keep missing the beauty of your own journey. But if you see yourself through purpose, you will realize even your pain can be used. If you see yourself through faith, you will realize the story is not over. If you see yourself through healing, you will stop calling the wound your home. If you see yourself through God's eyes, you will understand that people may have mishandled you, but they did not manufacture you. They do not get to define what they did not create. So today, check your IP. Where are you living from? Where are you connected from? Where are you responding from? Where are you making decisions from? And if the address is old, reset it. If the address is fear, move. If the address is shame, move. If the address is rejection, move. If the address is survival, move. Because you are not required to keep living in a place that God is calling you out of. Your old address may explain where you have been, but it does not get to decide where you are going. You can move from pain to purpose, from fear to faith, from insecurity to identity, from survival to strength, from confusion to clarity. You can move from who they said you were to who God created you to be. So this is your homework assignment for this week. I want you to do one thing. Take 10 minutes and write down this question. What is my IP address? Then answer it honestly. Where am I positioned right now? And after you answer that, write this. Where do I want to be positioned moving forward? Because awareness tells you where you are, but intention helps you choose where you are going. So this has been the Who Am I podcast. And once again, I am your host, Jeff Hopgood, I'm reminding you to continue to pause, reflect, and refocus. And before you go, remember this little tidbit. You are not stuck at an old address. You are not bound to an old label. You are not trapped in an old version of yourself. You can reset your IP. You can change your identity position. You can stop connecting from the pain and start connecting from purpose. So keep asking the question, who am I? And this week, ask one more. What is my IP address? And remember, your identity belongs in the hand of the one who created you. So before we move forward, I want you to pause for just a moment. Take a breath wherever you are, whatever you're carrying. This next part is for you. Let's speak life over ourselves out loud if you can, because what we say in this moment has the power to shift how we walk into the rest of our day. So let's begin with our affirmation. I am not defined by my past or limited by my mistakes. I am growing, learning, and becoming who I was created to be. I have values beyond titles, roles, and expectations. I choose honesty over fear and growth over comfort. I am allowed to change, heal, and evolve. I walk with purpose, clarity, and courage. I am becoming more aligned with my true self every day. And who I am is enough. So as we close today's episode, I want to thank you for taking this time for yourself. If something you heard inspired you, challenged you, or made you pause and reflect, please don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with someone who may need it. Invite them into the conversation. See, this podcast grows when we grow together. I cannot do this without you. See, we grow together through shared stories, honest reflections, and real connections. Every listen, every share, every conversation helps create a community rooted in purpose, rooted in love, rooted in hope, rooted in faith, rooted in trust and truth. So until next time, keep reflecting, keep becoming, and remember, you matter. This is the Who Am I podcast, and let's walk this journey together.
Who am I? Yeah, I'm more than the pain, more than the pride. Who am I? Who am I? Walking in purpose, no mask, no disguise. This is my voice, my rise, my life. Welcome to Who Am I?